Hey everyone, my name's Emily Courtwright. This is my husband, Adam Roberts, and we are really excited today to talk about some new passive investing opportunities with A&E in the mortgage notes space.
Emily and I have been spending the last 12 months or so investigating this investment, getting educated, and hiring a mentor to help us get our own portfolio diversified into cash flowing notes. Our early experience with notes has been really, really positive. And so we thought to ourselves, hey, how can we get our passive investor partners involved in this, because we really think that you'll enjoy the benefits of note investing as well. So we're going to review with you a few different options that we have for participating as a note investor with A&E.
So the first option is a promissory note structure, and this would be at a flat fixed 6% fixed interest for a term between 2 and 3 years. And the typical investment could be 50, 75, 100,000, somewhere in that range.
A second way to participate with us in this space is by actually investing in a note or portfolio of notes. You'll notice that the returns are quite a bit higher on this option. This is because you're taking advantage of the interest rate on the notes as well as the pricing discount that you get when you buy the notes. We are always buying these notes at a discount to the balance that is on the loan. Therefore, your effective interest rate is going to be quite a bit higher than what's actually on the loan itself. The term on this option for buying a note is based on the note itself. Emily and I have invested in note terms as short as 3 years and as long as 15 years. When you buy longer-term mortgage notes, just keep in mind that there's always a secondary market for notes, and thus it is a relatively liquid investment.
The third option is to buy a portion of a note. And like Adam said, we're going to go through an example of this, but this is the most flexible option where you would come to us and say, I have X amount of money that I'd like to put away for X amount of time and create stable cash flow on that investment. That term is looking between 5 to 10 years, and the minimum investment is 50,000, but it could go up to any level. So let's talk about who each of these options would be best suited for.
So option one is very simply a loan to A&E to run the note business. There's no long-term commitment. The loan is not tied to any specific asset in general. And it tends to be the shortest time frame way to participate.
The second option is for investors that want that really stable, dependable monthly cash flow from an investment that is backed by a real estate asset. The option two also is the only one that gets to take advantage of the discount pricing versus the balance of the loan, which we'll call the margin. So it has the highest potential for returns.
And finally, option three, like Emily said, tends to be the most flexible. You're not purchasing the entire note. You're purchasing it for a period of time, but you still get to participate or be the beneficiary of that stable monthly cash flow for a period of time you're invested.
So let's jump into the examples. This example is for the promissory note at a $100,000 loan at 6% interest for 3 years. So simple interest, 6% on $100,000 would be $6,000 a year. So over 3 years, this investor would earn $18,000.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple, pretty basic.
Let's look at an example of investing in an entire mortgage note. So you can see this beautiful home in a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri is valued at $340,000. The mortgage note on the home has a balance of $174,702, and the note is for sale for $168,775. So right there you can see the pricing discount that the investor gets when they're buying the note on the secondary market. That discount, of course, as we said before, helps to increase the effective interest rate to you, the note investor. This note brings in a monthly payment of $1,668 which against your original investment is an annualized cash flow of roughly 11.8%. So real healthy cash flowing note on this particular deal. The remaining term for the note is about 12 and a half years. And what's the takeaway for option 2? You're really investing into a cash flow stream. So the $1,668 per month, which is really healthy payment going into your bank account, is what you're investing in.
Now let's take it a one step further and speak to an investor that maybe wants to diversify across multiple notes. So this would be an example of a 3-note portfolio. So you'd have one in St. Louis, one in Ohio, one in Florida. So you're diversifying across different locations, different states, and different assets. The total value of these homes is $845,000, but the loan balances, the legal balances, are $335,000. Now here's where you see the discount again. Even though the loan balances are at $335,000, the investor is purchasing these 3 notes for $278,000. So over a $50,000 discount to what the legal loan balances are. Now, in exchange for that $278,000 investment, the investor is getting a $2,630 a month payment, consistent payment each month. Now, each of these loans has a different length of time left, but the average remaining term on them is at 15 years, and the average yield is 6.6%. Now, investment to value, we haven't talked about that yet, but that is one of the criteria that we look at when we are analyzing the notes. And that is taking the investor purchase price and dividing it by the home values. So what percentage is our purchase price compared to what the homes are worth? And 33% is extremely safe number. Even 50%, 50 to 60 is very safe, because if something were to happen and the borrower were to come across some hardships, we are protected by these asset values.
And just one other note too, about the legal balance versus the purchase price. What tends to happen is, in some instances, borrowers will either sell their home or refinance their home prior to the term limit left on the mortgage. So when this happens, as the investor, you're going to see the profits of that margin discount. So for example, if these 3 homes all sold or refinanced in a certain year, you would be paid the balance on the loans, the $335,000, therefore, making a higher return on your money.
So let's talk about the different roles if you were to purchase the notes through us. So A&E, we act as the active investor, and you would act as the passive investor. So as the active investors, we would be sourcing the notes. We would be doing all of the due diligence, oversee the closing process, and setting up the third-party loan servicer. And then we continue on as an asset manager post-closing. So like we just mentioned, if something were to happen to the borrower where they would start paying late or they came across a hardship, we would step in and we would work with the servicer and the borrower to work things out, or if necessary, pursue the foreclosure process.
As a passive investor, you can expect to receive visibility to a loan portal where you can see the borrower's payments, escrow balances, and all the particular financial matters with the investment.
Let's talk about option number 3. And option 3 is to buy a portion of a note, which is also called a partial. So in this example, this is a property in Fort Lauderdale, and the home is valued at $630,000, but this investor just wants to invest $100,000, which is less than the total loan amount. And in exchange for that $100,000, there could be a $1,600 cash flow payment for 6.5 years. So essentially, you are paying $100,000 for a steady cash flow stream over the next 6.5 years, $1,600 a month. The yield on this example comes out to 7%. And like we mentioned earlier, this is the most flexible option. So you would come to us and say, I have X amount, I'm looking to put it aside for X amount of years, and we would work to find that best partial note for you.
It's also worth mentioning the major difference between option 2, where you're buying an entire note, and option 3, where you're buying a partial of a note, is the pricing discount. As an owner of the full note, you get to take advantage of the margin between the price you pay and the loan balance, which we talked about. As a partial investor, you don't get to take advantage of that discount. So just one difference there between the two options.
Finally, let's discuss what the difference between cash flow and yield are in the note space. You've seen them both used on our charts. Cash flow is very simply the money coming into your bank account every month. So like we talked about in option 2, $1,668 per month coming into your bank account times 12 months to annualize, divided by your original investment, is almost 12%. So this is purely the cash coming into your bank account from the investment. Yield takes into account the fact that those payments are both principal and interest. Yield is simply the interest rate return on investment based on the note's declining balance. So as you receive payments, which will be both principal and interest, yield takes into account just the interest portion. Emily and I like to measure both of these metrics, as cash flow is important to understand total principal and interest payments coming back to my bank account. I utilize the principal portion of the payments to reinvest in more notes. Yield is important because this gives me a feel for what the cut and dry return on investment is from the interest-only portion of the payment.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to watch our quick video and review the other resources in our email. If you are interested in exploring note investing further, we'd love to set up a meeting with you and discuss some more particulars in this investment. Feel free to scan the QR code or click here. We have a short Google form to fill out. And like I mentioned, we'll take that and set up some time to speak with everybody who's interested. Emily and I have invested $250,000 over the past several months in mortgage notes. And like I mentioned before, the cash flow benefits have been really, really eye-opening. So much so that we'd love to include our passive investors in this investment opportunity. And so feel free to get in touch with us. We look forward to hearing from you. And as always, thank you for being loyal investors.
Thank you.